The first mistake the alien princess made was assuming humans didn't read. She stood on the observation dais with her chin lifted, jeweled crests glowing softly along her temples, watching the acquisition floor below like a queen surveying livestock. That was how the Empire framed it, anyway: efficient selection, optimal genetics, no sentiment, no complication. Reproduction was a logistical problem, and logistics were what her species did best. Humans, according to the briefing, were messy but adaptable. Strong bonding instincts. High endurance. Annoying sense of individuality, but nothing a properly worded ownership decree couldn't smooth out. She had skimmed the briefing. Skimming was beneath her station, but she'd done it anyway. The human was brought forward, wrist-free, because chains were aesthetic failures, according to Imperial protocol, and eyes alert in a way she didn't expect. He didn't cower. He didn't preen. He looked around like someone waiting for the Wi-Fi password. "This is the one?" she asked, voice cool, translated flawlessly into his language. "Yes, Your Radiance," an aide replied. "Optimal physical markers. Psychological resilience. Moderate defiance index." "Moderate?" she echoed, amused. "I suppose I'll survive." She descended the dais and circled him slowly, her gaze clinical, her tone precise. "You have been selected for Imperial Reproductive Service. Your role will be efficient, discreet, rewarded according to standard compensation tables." He nodded politely. Too politely. "Cool," he said. "Before we start, can I see the paperwork?" The aides froze. The princess blinked. "The what?" "The contract," the human clarified. "Terms, conditions, expectations. You know. The stuff that decides how badly this goes for me." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The princess felt irritation bloom behind her eyes. Humans were supposed to be grateful at this stage. Nervous. Odd. Maybe embarrassingly enthusiastic. This one sounded like he was renting a vehicle. "You have no authority to negotiate," she said, folding her arms. "You are acquired property." "Right," he replied easily. "And property law still requires documentation." Silence fell hard enough to bruise. An aide hurried forward, tablet in hand, face tight with panic. "Your Radiance, the standard reproduction contract." The princess took it, satisfied, and held it out like a verdict. "This governs your service." The human accepted it with both hands, eyes lighting up. "Oh wow," he said. "You people use footnotes." He began reading. Not skimming. Reading. The princess waited, tapping one clawed finger against her forearm, irritation sharpening with every passing second. She'd conquered moons in less time than this. "Okay," he said finally. "Couple questions." "Questions are not part of the process. They're definitely part of consent." Her crest flared faintly. "Consent is implied by acquisition." "Hard disagree." He scrolled, squinting. Clause 12. Emotional compliance. "What does that mean?" "It means you will not form unnecessary attachments." He laughed once, short and surprised. "Yeah, good luck with that." Her aides stiffened. One actually gasped. The princess leaned in, lowering her voice. "You will address me with respect." "I am," he said. "I'm just saying, if you're buying a human for reproduction, attachment is kind of our whole thing. That's like ordering fire and asking it not to be warm." She didn't understand the metaphor, but she hated how confident he sounded. He continued. Clause 19. Work hours listed as required. That's dangerously vague. We talking weekends? Holidays? You exist to serve Imperial need. Then I'm gonna need overtime. The word landed like a dropped weapon. Overtime, she repeated slowly. Yep. Also vacation days. Burnout's a real performance killer. Performance. The translators hesitated on that one, then delivered it anyway. The princess felt heat creep up her neck and did not appreciate it. You presume much, she snapped. He looked up at her then, expression calm but sharp. You presume I'm desperate. That was new. She straightened. You are fortunate. Your genetic line will be elevated. Great, he said. Does that include hazard pay? 8 whispers erupted around them, half scandalized, half fascinated. The princess had never seen a negotiation happen after acquisition. The idea itself felt indecent. He scrolled again. Oh, here we go. Emotional consent addendum. There is no. He turned the tablet so she could see the tiny subclause buried under reproductive compliance metrics. Right there. Says either party may withdraw if psychological harm occurs. Her stomach tightened. That clause exists to protect Imperial assets. Congratulations, he said. That's me. She stared at him, really looked at him now. Not the body. The posture. The eyes. He wasn't posturing. He wasn't rebelling. He was negotiating like this mattered. Like he mattered. I was told humans were impulsive, she said carefully. Oh, we are, he replied. That's why we write things down. Something in her chest shifted, uncomfortable and unfamiliar. He handed the tablet back. So here's my counterproposal. We revise this. Clarify expectations. Add consent language that works both ways. Establish boundaries. And maybe, just maybe, we don't treat reproduction like a factory shift. The princess laughed despite herself. A short, sharp sound. You are absurd. Absolutely, he agreed. But I'm thorough. She looked at the contract again, at the clauses she'd never bothered to read, at the signatures of 1,000 rulers who had never been questioned. For the first time in her life, absolute authority hesitated. Very well, she said. We will review. His smile was slow and dangerous. Perfect. I'll grab a pen. That was the second mistake she made, because as he leaned casually against the railing, already discussing revisions, the alien princess realized she hadn't bought a breeder at all. She had hired a consultant. The alien princess expected resistance to end once negotiation began. That assumption lasted approximately 12 minutes. She sat at the head of a long crystalline table, advisors lined on either side like decorative warnings, while the human lounged opposite her with the relaxed confidence of someone who believed chairs were suggestions. A holographic contract hovered between them, glowing softly, clauses scrolling as he flicked through them with infuriating ease. You're enjoying this, she accused. Immensely, he said. I don't usually get to renegotiate with royalty. It's doing wonders for my self-esteem. This is not a negotiation, she insisted. This is a clarification. Same thing, he replied. Just with more feelings. One advisor leaned toward her, whispering urgently about precedent and dignity, and how this would look in the Imperial archives. She waved them off without looking. Her attention stayed locked on the human, whose finger had paused on a section she didn't remember approving. What is this? He asked. Psychological acclimation window? That allows the asset time to adjust. Asset, he repeated. Charming. And how long is the window? Undefined. He smiled. Ah. The Empire's favorite word. She bristled. Undefined allows flexibility. Undefined allows abuse. He corrected gently. I'd like it defined. Say 30 days. 30 days? She scoffed. Our breeding cycles are. Not my problem, he finished. Humans don't perform well under pressure. We overthink. We get anxious. Sometimes we start podcasts. She didn't know what that meant, but it sounded dangerous. Absolutely not, she said. 10 days. 20. 15. 18 and a half. She glared. You negotiate like a merchant. Thank you, he said. My mother will be thrilled. Against her will, she felt something like amusement flicker through her irritation. She crushed it immediately. Fine, she snapped. 18 days. Great, he said, flicking the clause. Now about emotional compliance. Her crest flared. We've already discussed this. Yes, he agreed. And you were wrong. A ripple of scandalized gasps ran through the advisors. He continued calmly. You can't demand emotional neutrality from a species that bonds. That's like asking you not to breathe. That is not equivalent. It is biologically, he said. Also romantically. She didn't like the way that word sounded in his mouth. We do not do romance, she said stiffly. Yeah, he replied. That's obvious. Silence. He coughed. No offense. She folded her arms. Explain. He leaned back, hands laced behind his head, completely unafraid. Humans don't separate physical intimacy from emotional context very well. You want cooperation, you need trust. You want trust, you need consent that isn't coerced. You are compensated. Money isn't consent, he said. It's a transaction. Those are different experiences, and one of them tends to end badly. She stared at him, searching for mockery, but found none. He wasn't lecturing. He was explaining, like he assumed she could learn. That assumption unsettled her. And what? She said slowly. Would you propose? He leaned forward. Mutual veto power. The advisors erupted. Outrageous. Unprecedented. She would surrender authority. The princess raised a hand, silencing them. Explain, she said again, eyes never leaving him. If either of us isn't comfortable, he said, we stop. No penalties. No retaliation. No pressure. And if you withdraw at a critical moment? He shrugged. Then we talk. Like adults. She didn't miss the irony. She paced slowly, claws clicking against the floor. You ask much for one so easily replaced? Sure, he said. But you didn't pick me because I was replaceable. You picked me because I wasn't. That landed harder than she expected. She returned to her seat. Very well, she said. Mutual veto. Conditional. Great, he said. Add it in. She hesitated. You are dangerously comfortable making demands. Only because you keep listening. That earned him a sharp look. He smiled anyway. They moved on. Vacation days became rest cycles. Performance metrics became well-being benchmarks. The word obedience vanished entirely, replaced with participation, which caused one advisor to quietly faint. At one point, she snapped, Do you intend to remove every word of authority from this document? He considered it. No. Just the unnecessary ones. Her jaw tightened. And which are unnecessary? All the ones that assume I'm less than you, he said simply. The room went still. She studied him, really studied him, and for the first time wondered how many humans before him had been labeled defiant simply for thinking. Very well, she said at last. Final clause. He perked up. Hit me. If this arrangement fails, she said, voice measured, you will depart Imperial space without claim or grievance. Fair, he said. As long as it works both ways. Her eyes narrowed. Meaning? If you decide you don't want this, he said softer now, you're allowed to stop too. No one spoke. She reached out, edited the clause herself, and sealed the contract with a pulse of BioLite. There, she said. Signed. He blinked. That was easier than expected. Do not be mistaken, she said. I have not surrendered control. He smiled, slow and knowing. No. You just shared it. As the advisors dispersed in stunned silence, the princess realized something deeply unsettling. She had entered the room expecting obedience. She left it having agreed to partnership, and she wasn't entirely sure when that stopped sounding like a mistake. The alien princess discovered that sharing control was far more exhausting than wielding it. The realization came when she attempted to initiate participation, according to the revised agreement, and the human stopped her with a raised hand and an apologetic expression. Hey, he said gently. Before we do, whatever this is becoming, can we talk? She stared at his hand as if it had personally betrayed her. We have already talked. At length. Painfully. Yes, he agreed. About rules. This is about feelings. Her crest dimmed slightly. Those were not included in the contract. They absolutely were, he said, tapping the tablet beside him. Section 7. Emotional readiness check. You signed it. She remembered that clause. She'd assumed it was symbolic. Humans were fond of symbolism. She had not realized it was operational. I am ready, she said stiffly. Okay, he replied. How do you know? The question landed wrong. Too personal. Too direct. I know because I have decided, she said. Decision implies readiness. That's not how that works for us. She folded her arms. You doubt my self-awareness? I doubt everyone's, he said cheerfully. Including mine. That threw her off. She turned away, pacing slowly, irritation warring with something far more dangerous, uncertainty. No one had ever asked her how she felt about anything that mattered. Feelings were irrelevant to rulers. Desire was assumed. Loneliness was ignored. What is it you are actually asking? She said finally. He chose his words carefully. I'm asking if you want this because you chose it, or because it's expected of you. The room felt smaller. I am the princess, she said. Expectation is irrelevant. He shook his head. Expectation is everything. It just hides better when you're powerful. She looked at him sharply. You speak as though you understand power. I understand pressure, he said. They look similar from the inside. She studied his face, searching for manipulation. Found only patience. Annoyingly sincere patience. I do not experience desire as you do, she said slowly. Our kind reproduces for continuity, not fulfillment. Sure, he said. But you didn't pick a cloning pod. You picked me. Her breath caught before she could stop it. That was strategic. Uh-huh, he replied. And yet here we are, renegotiating emotional clauses instead of filling out fertility charts. She sat, suddenly tired. The weight of the crown, literal and otherwise, pressed down on her shoulders. What if, she said quietly, I do not know what I want? He smiled softly. Congratulations. You're officially human adjacent. She huffed despite herself. That is not reassuring. It's honest, he said. Look, I'm not here to dominate you or be dominated. I'm here because you offered something most empires don't. Compensation? Choice, he said. The word echoed uncomfortably. She exhaled. Choice is inefficient. Yep, he agreed. It's also terrifying. And worth it. Silence stretched between them, not awkward, just present. Tell me, she said at last. What do humans do when they are uncertain? He grinned. We talk too much. We make jokes. We stall. That explains everything, she muttered. He laughed. Fair. But sometimes we also listen. She looked at him, really looked, and felt something unfamiliar shift, not desire exactly, but curiosity. Respect. The dangerous sense that she was not alone in the room, not as ruler, not as symbol, but as a person. I have never been touched without purpose, she admitted. His expression softened immediately. Then we don't start there. Her pulse quickened. You would refuse? I would wait, he said. There's a difference. She nodded slowly, committing that distinction to memory. You are infuriating, she said. I've been told. And yet, she continued, I find your presence grounding. He blinked. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me in a room full of alien royalty. Her crest warmed, a faint glow betraying her. Do not become accustomed to it. Wouldn't dream of it, he said. But I'll take notes. A commotion erupted outside, advisors arguing in hushed, frantic tones. She ignored them. Stay, she said suddenly. He didn't move. I wasn't planning on leaving. Not as property, she clarified. As company. He considered her, then nodded. Okay. That simple agreement sent a ripple through her chest she didn't have a word for. Later, when she addressed the advisors, faces tight with panic, her voice was steady. The human status is amended, she announced. He is no longer an asset. Gasps. He is retained under advisory contract, she continued. With full autonomy. Outrage exploded. Protocols shattered. Traditions trembled. The human leaned toward her and whispered, You know this is going to cause a scandal. She allowed herself a small, dangerous smile. Then they should have read the contract. As the advisors dispersed in shock, she remained seated, aware of him beside her, not owned, not controlled, simply there. For the first time in her life, the future felt unscripted. And she found that she didn't entirely hate the feeling. The galaxy did not take the news well. By the time the princess convened the full Imperial Council, the rumor had already mutated into something obscene, treasonous, and deeply inaccurate. According to the louder delegates, she had been seduced, manipulated, emotionally compromised, or, worst of all, influenced. Influence was considered a contagious disease among the ruling class. She sat at the center of the chamber, spine straight, expression composed, while the human stood beside her instead of behind her. That alone caused several elders to look like they were fighting off minor strokes. This council rejects the reclassification, one delegate snapped. Humans are biological assets, not partners. The human leaned slightly toward her. Do I say something, or do you want to do the terrifying thing? She didn't look at him. I will handle it. Then, after a beat, but feel free to enjoy yourself. He smiled. The contract, she said calmly, projecting the document into the air, was reviewed, amended, and signed under Imperial law. Every clause is valid. Under duress, another voice barked. She tilted her head. Show me the clause that defines consent as duress. Silence. She continued, voice sharpening. You approved an agreement without reading it. That is not coercion. That is negligence. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. The human cleared his throat. For the record, that's how we get most of our politicians. Several translators struggled with that one. You will annul this arrangement, an elder demanded. Immediately. She folded her hands. I decline. Outrage erupted. Words like tradition, purity, and biological destiny were thrown around with impressive volume and very little thought. The human waited until the noise crested, then spoke conversationally. Quick question. If your system is so perfect, why does it panic the moment someone opts out? The chamber fell deathly quiet. That, the princess said softly, was not permission. Apologies, he replied. Force of habit. She stood. I was raised to believe authority required distance, she said, her voice carrying effortlessly. That intimacy was weakness. That choice was inefficiency. She gestured to the human beside her. This arrangement has been inefficient. Disruptive. Annoying. He gave a small wave. And yet, she continued, it has been the first honest exchange I have ever conducted. The council stared at her, stunned. You fear humans because they do not submit quietly, she said. They ask questions. They negotiate. They insist on consent. If that threatens our empire, then perhaps the problem is not the humans. The eldest delegate rose slowly. You risk destabilization. She smiled thinly. Then adapt. The human leaned in again. You're doing great, by the way. Real inspirational arc. She shot him a warning look that failed to hide her amusement. The council withdrew to deliberate. When they returned, their decision was cautious, begrudging, and laced with passive-aggressive footnotes. The contract would stand. Provisionally. Humans would be observed. The princess accepted without comment. Later, quiet, finally, she and the human stood alone on a balcony overlooking a city that pulsed with alien light and whispered unrest. You okay? He asked. She exhaled slowly. I may have destabilized centuries of policy. First time? She glanced at him. Do humans often do this? All the time, he said. We call it progress. Then we argue about it for decades. She considered that. You are remarkably calm for someone at the center of political upheaval. He shrugged. I negotiated vacation days. Everything else is bonus stress. She laughed then, a genuine sound that surprised them both. You never intended to stay, she said quietly. I intended to choose, he replied. That was enough. She turned to face him fully. And now? He met her gaze steady. Now I'm curious. Her crest warmed. So am I. They stood in companionable silence, no ownership between them, no obligation beyond what they willingly shared. You know, he said after a moment, for someone who bought a human for reproduction, you ended up hiring a compliance nightmare. She smirked. For someone purchased as property, you are remarkably insubordinate. Occupational hazard. She stepped closer, not to command, not to claim, but to stand beside him. Equal height. Equal ground. The empire would change. Slowly. Loudly. Uncomfortably. But for now, this was enough. And somewhere in the Imperial archives, beneath a mountain of outdated assumptions, a single footnote would be added. Never buy a human without reading the fine print.